Now in this exercise, we will draw one individual keyframe, copy it, and transform it. This is called the manual transform tutorial. So create a new composition by going to Composition, New Composition. Make sure it's HDV, HDTV 720 29.97. And you want to call this one your last name, your first initial, and manual. 5 seconds long, and say OK. Now we want to go to Layer, New, and make a new solid layer, and this time let's make it a red color. Make comp size and say OK. Now we're going to change the length of the layer. So right now your layer is 5 seconds long, but we want it to be 5 frames long. So we're going to grab the end and we're going to drag it down till it's under a second, and then we're going to expand this display so we can see more frames at one time. And here's the 5-second line, so let's drag our CTI up to the 5-second line, make sure it says 5 seconds, and then drag the end of the layer till it lines up with the CTI. And now we want to drag the CTI, the current time indicator, back to 0, 0. So make sure you're on 0, 0 again. At this point, let's Command S to save that. Now double click on the layer in the timeline to open it in the layer window. Change to the paint workspace. Make sure you still have the 9-pixel white brush, but this time we're going to change the duration setting. We want the duration setting now to be constant. So up until now we've been doing right on, but now we want it to be constant. Okay. Now with constant set, with the brush tool, we're going to draw the lowercase letter C. And now it stays there. We want to change to your Essentials or your Standard workspace by double-clicking on Essentials or Standard. And you want to make sure that you close the layer window. And here is just your letter C. There's just 5 frames of letter C. Command Save. So if you play this, it's just going to disappear. Just press play and it just disappears because nothing is happening. So let's make sure we're at 0, 0. Now we want to select this red solid layer, and we want to click the triangle here to twirl down the options. And under Effects, click that triangle and you'll see the paint. Click on that triangle, and here you see the words Paint on Transparent. It's now off, but turn that on, and now you have a C that is in the middle of nowhere. You don't have any background anymore. Let's fly that back up. Now Command S. With the layer selected in the timeline window, press Command D to duplicate the layer. Do that again and again until you have 6 layers. Okay, now if you select the second layer through the 6th layer, press R. This brings up the rotation transformation. So now you can keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch. And you just do that once, you get a keyframe for the first time you click. After that, it'll just delete all of them. And now let's go ahead and put in a number here for the degrees of rotation. And I'm going to say let's rotate all of these by 10 degrees. And now at this point I'm going to deselect everything by clicking in the gray area. And then I'm going to come up and select the second one. And this one I'm going to do for 20 degrees. Then I'll come to the next one and do that one for 30 degrees. And then I'll go to the next one and do that for 40 degrees. And then the last one I'll do for 50 degrees. And I'm going to save that. So these are all rotating. And I'm going to click down here, and if you press U, it will collapse all the layers. If you press U again, it will show you all of your keyframes. So that's the way you can check your keyframes. But right now they're all rotating on top of each other. What we need to do is select the first one, and then go to the bottom, hold down Shift and click, and that will select all of them. And now I want to right click and get the keyframe assistant, get keyframe assistant, and then sequence the layers. And we want to have all of them sequenced. So now we have a nice rotation going on. Now while they are still selected, we want to right click and select Pre-Compose. And we want to make sure that we move all attributes into the new composition. We want to adjust the composition duration to the time span of the selected layers. This is very important. Adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layers. Let's call this C sequence. So C sequence, and say OK. So here's C sequence, and it shows up in your list up here. Now we want to duplicate this. So press Command D, Command D, Command D until you have 5 of them. Select all of them by Shift click. Now right click and sequence these layers. Keyframe Assistant, sequence layers, say OK. Now they all rotate in the same direction though. Click on layer number 2, right click, time, and time reverse that layer. Now go to layer number 4, right click, time, time reverse that layer. Command S to save it. Now press the spacebar and watch what happens. So you see it rotates and then it rotates back. Press the spacebar to stop it. And go back to the beginning. Command S. Okay, so that is manual transform.